I was talking to a buddy of mine, Giovanni, and we were talking like, yeah, it's like, well, most people are like, oh, I'm the CEO of Standout Authority. Like, no, like go back and look at my LinkedIn profile. My first job is on there as a server at Chili's, right? Everything is an indexable point. And like how many people go like, I want to have conversation, build relationship. Oh, dude, you worked at Chili's? Me too. Conversation, opportunity, commonality, right? Like that's what people look for. And so like Phil, everything, he's like, oh, so I should put my first job at a Payless shoe store. I'm like, oh yeah, do everything, put it all on there. The more information, the better. You're outside. Like I'd been for the last couple of years, the resident Spider-Man at Dell Children's Hospital here in Austin, Texas. Like put that stuff out there. I don't want to see what you do. I want to see who you are. Don't tell me your resume, tell me your career journey, your career story.
Welcome to the Speakeasy podcast, where the real conversations happen. Behind closed doors with the boldest entrepreneurs, creators, and growth minds in the game. No fluff, no filters, just the raw strategies, personal stories, and mental models that move the needle. I'm Eric Berman. Now let's get into it. Dopamine without direction is insanity. I love that quote, and I got that today from our Joshua B. Lee. In today's Inside the Speakeasy podcast, we're going to learn an incredible entrepreneurial journey of somebody who went from being at the top down to almost losing everything with $1,000 left in his name, having to recover his life, going through a rough time with a personal family and coming stronger out of it, and now being one of the biggest gurus in LinkedIn marketing. He's also going to share 3 incredible, simple nuggets and tips that we can all take action on immediately to grow our LinkedIn business. So excited to have you on the show today. Welcome, Joshua B. Lee. I'm so pumped and excited today. I have my good friend out of Austin, Texas, where we just had our big event, Joshua Lee. And I was going to riff an intro, but like he was so kind to give me something really cool. And so, I really want to talk about some of the things you actually said in your bio. And I like how you said this, the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn, which is true. I mean, when you think LinkedIn, there's a couple people in the community, especially you reach out to, and it's just so underrated. We're going to get into that a little bit. And I didn't realize you'd over 2 decades in digital marketing, and you've built 16 businesses, managed nearly $1 billion in ad spend, damn, and driven over 35 trillion online impressions. I don't know how you're counting all that. We're gonna have to figure that one out. One thing I know you talked about is you realize that metrics don't build relationships. It's all about the people.
Yeah.
And that's why you founded your company, Standout Authority. And there you help out entrepreneurs, executives, industry leaders humanize their brands and turn engagement into real world impact. And you've worked with tech giants like Google, AWS, Oracle, and MySpace. And I have a MySpace story we're going to talk about, along with visionaries Joe Polish, Dan Sullivan, Sally Hogshead, Peter Diamandis. And your expertise isn't just selling brands, it's making them authentic, engaging, and unforgettable. And when you're not doing high-level coaching on global stages, I love it because you and I are very aligned, being a dedicated husband, father, and advocate for meaningful living. Get ready as I introduce and we talk to Joshua B. Lee. So pumped to have you today, Joshua. Welcome.
Eric, I'm excited, man. And, if you start your MySpace story off with, oh, so Tom, don't worry, everyone does. They're like, oh my God, you work with MySpace. I'm like, I did.
So when did you work with MySpace?
Dude, we're talking 2004. So I actually helped them design the first social media ads to monetize their traffic. So most social media ads that you use today are based on the technology that I put together over 20 years ago.
Damn, I love it. And do you remember who you worked with over there?
I mean, there's so many people that were over there, but I mean, what we did, and just to give everyone context, like they were building the company, we were over there right south of LA, being able to go through, and we go up there and they were trying to be able to monetize their traffic. And so we had come in there, we had a partnership with, at the time, it was Overture, which became Yahoo. Most of you know it as Yahoo. So we brought our partnership. We were doing arbitrage, right? Like we were bringing in ads to be able to go through, selling it to them for, views for pennies on the dollar, like tenths of a penny, turn around and be able to sift it to different, things like mesothelioma. I remember that was a $500 keyword, right? I mean, it was like printing money. It was insane.
The good old days.
The good old days of the Wild West. We were with them for about a year. And then this is when probably one of the best business deals I ever saw, my friend, which was when Rupert Murdoch came in and bought that company. I mean, for me, it sucked because we got kicked to the curb because he came in, bought the company, and then turned around within 9 months and sold just the advertising rights that we were already running to Google for double what he paid for the company. I mean, talk about a brilliant business deal. So we were making money like crazy over there, but then that got done. So I saw an amazing business deal by him.
Well, funny enough, when Murdoch did that deal with News Corp, the person he was negotiating with to do that deal was a guy that I know very well, my brother, named Joshua as well. So yeah, Josh Turner, my brother, was one of the 4 founders at MySpace.
100%. I guarantee if I went back in, because I keep all my emails, I guarantee there's email between me and Josh back then.
You got to look at that. It's so funny. Yeah. So it was him, Tom, and 2 others that started it. And we're not here to talk about the MySpace origins, but the funny backstory is that deal, when they did that deal with Murdoch, it was between them and Viacom, and it was the bidding war. And I will actually share a lesson for those founders who are listening. Is it was a really interesting backstory in that the guys that started it went through an incubator. And when they got signed through an incubator, because they had just the first idea of, their idea just kind of kicked off. They're getting some momentum. And the incubator signed them up and said, all right, we'll give you some 25 mil valuation, pay you some nice salaries. And here you go, you're on your way and you get to own part of the company. And by the way, we're going to put a cap that if you ever get acquired for more than 275 million, we get the right to buy your shares back. So now when you're starting off and they're paying you a big salary, you're like, oh, whatever, sure, we'll take that deal. So Murdoch comes in on this bidding war, and I think they ended up going for like 600-ish around that time, that transaction. But all the founders were getting hosed because they're like, wait a second. So we built this thing and now we're getting 275 versus the 600 that we're worth. They're like, F that. So ultimately what happened is Murdoch sat down with my brother and the other guys and said, all right, what's it going to take, guys, to make you happy? Post deal, because I know you're getting screwed here. And so they actually made funny backstory. A lot of people don't know is most of the founders of MySpace made their money 2 years afterwards on insanely high, decent, really good salaries, but insanely high and easy to hit bonuses along the way. Well, I guess you can argue how easy or hard it was. I'll leave that up to a different conversation, but that was the funny backstory of MySpace.
Dude, that's amazing. I never realized that. It was such an interesting time back then to be able to go through. And I mean, like, seriously, like we were doing anywhere from 3 to 5 million a month on just the arbitrage that we were doing with them.
Let's go there. So MySpace, it's long ago, but I want to get into your career. So, I mean, how did you fall into that? What were you doing? How did you get into this world a little bit? And then we're going to lead into becoming the guru of LinkedIn. And then now you have a secret project that you said you'll kind of let in a little bit. So tease the audience, we got something cool you'll be doing. But yeah, let's talk about that. Take me through the journey.
Dude, I mean, like, I think I've been an entrepreneur in my life. My mom will tell you it happened like when I was in grade school. She couldn't realize why I was going to summer school and things like that. And then until the teachers called and said that I was playing cards and I was stealing everyone's money, right? Like I figured out how to be able to, count cards at a very young age. Everything's numbers. I was selling candy out of my locker, all those things, right?
Yeah.
Selling candy in my locker till I remember, I think it was like 7th or 8th grade. It was like history class.
Yep.
And so my family's from Germany. So I brought some, I don't know, my mom was like, yeah, sure. Non-alcoholic beer, bring it in. Show them this is from Germany. And well, that might have been fine until I decided to sell the non-alcoholic beer. That kind of got me in a lot of trouble. So
nice.
There's been a lot of things, but for me getting the online advertising space, like I was in Austin and I had gotten my broker's license in the mortgage industry and massive opportunity. And I remember the lenders had asked me to move out to California and, start up another firm out there. And I mean, this again, Wild West. I mean, this is called negams, reverse mortgages, all those other things. And I used to say like people would run over their own grandmother to close a loan back then, and kind of saw the writing on the wall early on because like people, especially in the California area, because you could refinance your home up to 100% of the equity that was in it. Like they were making more money on their homes refinancing than they were their jobs.
Yeah.
2008 was predicted way 10 years prior just by looking at the mortgage industry.
Yep.
And so I just couldn't do it anymore. And I had a buddy of mine that was like, hey, you got this company, Net Visibility. Why don't you come in? You can kind of learn. And I mean, like, you want to talk about the down and dirty of online advertising and being able to go in, like how I learned that industry was they gave, and I've got to be careful. I don't think I have her plugged into my office, but the Alexa list, right? Like, we would go through that list and I would reach out to people, Eric, and be like, hey, I see you got a website. Hey, if I can make you $1 more than what you're making now, I'm either going to make you more money or you're going to prove to you that you're making the most money on your website that you can. That was it. I would send 1,000 emails a day. And it was funny. My friends would joke like, dude, you're looking at porn all day. Honestly, half of the top 1,000 sites are adult sites.
Yeah.
I even remember my mom getting my call. She's like, your friend Larry told his mom that, are you really looking at, I'm like, Mom, I'm not getting paid to look at porn. I promise you it'd be a cool job, but like, it's not what I'm doing. So don't worry about that. But that's how it started. And
Wow.
It really got to a point where I realized I sat back in the background and I just realized relationships. Being an only child, relationships were always number one for me. Understand people first. And so I sat back and a certain point in that company, the business owner came in, and there's a huge difference between business owners and business operators. He was a business owner
Okay.
and he decided he wanted to operate that company. It's kind of still the writing on the wall too. That the company shut down very quickly. And so that's kind of how where I got in that industry. I learned a lot. I met a lot of people very early on in the early 2000s. And then I started my own company when I left because the company shut down very quickly. And I just reached back out to people. We had started a conversation with MySpace at Net Visibility, but they never finished. And so that's where I said, look, I've got the relationships. I have relationships with, Overture, with Google, with Lycos, right? Like all these other old companies, Ask Jeeves,
Yeah.
and you've got the traffic. So I was a middleman.
Yeah.
And my first company is called Leads and Feeds because I was bringing in leads, companies that had the content and XML feeds that I have access to, and I was making the margin. And so like, that's where I got my start. And you talk about 35 trillion online impressions. I mean, throughout that career, I started monetizing every acronym you could think of: CPA, CPM, CPL. I mean, there were so many different ways to be able to go into it. And just looking at, we had our own servers. I was cool, right? Like I had my own servers on the backbone in LA, next to Sony.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was cool until 2008 hit and I was bleeding $300,000 a month because everyone
What?
was, hey, the first thing we're going to cut is digital advertising because we don't believe in it yet.
Okay, so let's go there. So let's walk through that. So you're now running this. Is how big? Did you have a pretty good team, or are you going solo here?
We had a big team at that point in time. We had because I had 10 different companies that I was running at the time, because every company I was running so I could split them off, right? Like I had my S Corp and then I had my LLCs underneath,
Okay.
depending on if I needed to be able to split them off, tax purposes, things of that nature.
Yep.
And so like we had up to about 100 employees at a point in time.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So I only talked to my C-level executives and then we'd have the CEOs of each one of those individual companies.
Okay.
But I mean, that's what it was. And I mean, it was great until it wasn't.
Yeah. And then you're bleeding 300. Geez. Okay. So then what happens there? How do you get out of that mess?
That was a tough time. A lot of the guys that I'd worked with at that point in time were guys and friends that I grew up with.
Yeah.
They were great, but they were also, and this is another piece, right? Where I was surrounding myself with people that were happy to work for me, but weren't pushing me past my bounds, right? They were amazing employees. I loved that I made money, gave them jobs, but they didn't want to hear about my successes too much because that was bragging and things like that, or they didn't have that entrepreneurial endeavor. And so I remember, man, it was tough. Like the reason why I was able to get through that was because at that point in time, that's when people stopped answering the phones. I always made sure, not only myself, my team, you answer the phone. What's going on? What's happening? How do you have the conversation? Let someone yell, whatever it might be. But being that person that always answered the phones got me through that. Because at first, I made some bad calls. I made the whole thing. I forgot that, business is business and friends are friends. We always hear this.
Yeah.
You have to actually live it. And I was a person that cared about humans and the people that work for me.
Yep.
Dude, we went through a company savings. I went through my personal savings. Then finally I was like, look, I can't keep everyone on. I'm going to go bankrupt.
Right. Meaning you're saying in hindsight, you kept the relationships over probably the tough decision because you were
Yeah.
a good people person and you just wanted, yeah.
We probably could have lasted a little bit longer, but again, this is the whole thing, right?
So let's get, I mean, let's everybody understand, like you're a young business guy at that point.
I was about 30.
Okay. You're still getting the wisdom right now and you're learning on the fly.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually 29 because I'm 46 right now. So yeah, So I mean, like it's trying to do the math and go all the way back. But I mean, yeah, I was really young being able to go through it. I was dealing with companies like Google. We had 2 chargebacks with them 2 different times.
Yeah.
If people listening don't know what a chargeback is in that world, basically you would run traffic. They always peg you net 30 to net 60. And you had to believe, you're running traffic. So like I had my publisher that I put our ads on our XML feeds that we would pass down based on percentages. And, we'd run a couple $1 million a month on those. And 2 different times there was fraudulent. You do everything you could to catch fraud traffic, but like we live in a world where that's what people base their entire, being on, as being, how do I actually defraud people and make money and take it from people? So like one time I had a $500,000 chargeback from Google. Another time I had a $900,000 chargeback. It was just a rough industry.
Jesus.
Right. And you have to pay those because if you don't pay that out to your publishers, because I remember, Eric, I went and spent $200,000 on legal fees and lawyers, and all I got was redacted documents from Google. So they won't tell you where it came from. They just said some of the traffic within your 200 publishers, someone sent fraud, so we're not paying anyone.
Oh my God. And just dealing with that, it's gotta be so frustrating. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, you're ruining relationships and friendships. I mean, doing the best you can to salvage them, but I mean, these are people's with families and, that's so hard to deal with. So how'd you get through that?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like, how I got through it, Eric, it was understanding that I had to make a shift, right?
Mhm.
For me, it was, okay, let me go down to the most basic, who are my biggest partners that I can run myself and be able to go in. Like, sometimes, we all start off as entrepreneurs. You want to be able to grow to a business owner with an entrepreneurial mindset that has a team, that you're not wearing all the hats. But sometimes you have to understand too, like, you got to step back in, and like, in the long run, it all rolls down back to you. And that's kind of
Mhm.
what I had to take. Okay, what can I do? What can I take on? And what relationships can I keep moving forward that I actually enjoy? That's kind of where it kind of went on was, okay, these are the things that I can do. I mean, these are the days. And again, I age myself of Ben Edelman. He used to be able to write these different, like, oh, these are the people that are sending fraudulent traffic. You had to watch all different kind of aspects that we're going through.
Yeah.
And so it just got to a point where I was like, I've got to make a shift. And so this is where some of my companies going from, okay, I've got all these traffic monetization companies. What other avenues can I go down? Because I have the back end people, I have the marketing, I have the tech guys, I have the sales. What other avenues can I actually go down? And this is where I started doing some mentorship, and I wanted to bet on people, not an idea,
Mm.
because ideas come and go. The right person can stand the test of time. And so this is where I started getting into, okay, well, let me do domains. Let me get in the PR space. And I started really expanding my breadth of not just putting all my eggs in the advertising monetization basket, but what other businesses can I support with my own internal structure that the other entrepreneurs don't have?
Got it. Yep.
And so that's where I really started growing into more businesses and more companies. So that's kind of where it went until, life happens. As I said, I was surrounded by people that, didn't push me. I was making everything business. I was doing this whole work-life balance thing where I worked as hard as I played. I mean, I remember, times in Vegas, it's like a blur, right? Like, cause it was like, oh, it's just crazy times. And I met a group that truly changed my life. You know him. He's been around for a long time. His name is Yannick Silver.
Yep. Yep.
Yannick and Maverick 1000. All of a sudden I got invited. I said, it was a different group because people don't realize, like, the traffic side and the marketing side, like the social media marketers, there were different businesses, different groups of people.
Yeah.
And so I got invited and said, hey, someone recommended me. It's a good human being. You want to go out to Necker Island? Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this is crazy. It's a week out there. It's a great tax write-off. I said, I'm in. And all of a sudden I got to meet people, like, I was like, wow, okay, wait a minute. There's other people in this world that make money, do good onto this world, and can actually high five each other for their successes. Because I had surrounded myself with a lot of non-entrepreneurs who
Yeah.
were always there to be able to, the value of being able to get excess of what you had, but they didn't want to, anything you talked about was, even within my former family, my ex's family, like, we weren't able to talk about the company because that was considered bragging.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like, the whole saying, and it took me a while to understand the saying, sometimes it's lonely being an entrepreneur. Because, I look at it and say, well, lonely, I'm friends with everybody. I go out, I'm not lonely. But I think it's that this conversations sometimes get lonely as you're talking about, because they're just in your head, and who can you hang out with that can relate to you?
Yeah. And so, like, that's where I met those people. I met Richard Branson, and then, I started going out there once a year and just being able to be one of the early members in Maverick 1000. It was really amazing. I think the mistake that I made was I started being able to expand my mindset and my visibility, and I wasn't taking my partner along for the ride.
Ah.
And so I was growing and she wasn't.
Yep.
And I remember the different conversations that we're going through. And I remember when I had my son, he's 15 now. After a while, she's like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to change the world? Like, why don't you do what you do best? Just make money. And honestly, I knew at that point in time, like, our relationship had grown too far apart. I mean, there was times, like, I was great at making money, but I wanted to do more. Like, I had kids,
Yeah.
right? I looked in the mirror and I was 40 pounds heavier than I'd ever been. My relationships at that point in time outside of Mavericks were monetary, and I had no vision about where I was going. I just knew where I was at, right? It was this whole work-life play that's kind of BS.
Yep.
We don't have two separate lives. We have one life. And there was a time, man, just to be 100% transparent. I remember running all these different companies. Everyone saw me as successful because we always have this outside, like, oh, look at us, the social media side that everyone only sees.
Yep.
And Josh has an amazing life. He's got the kids, the wife, the house, the companies. He never seems to work that much. But I remember being in my office and I remember those office doors closing, man. I always had my office doors open. I want to be able to talk,
Yep.
say whatever I said in front of my kids, no matter if they were babies. Because if I couldn't say it in front of them, like, why would I not?
Yep.
And those doors shut at that office became not only a sanctuary for me, but a coffin that would stare at the wall for 8 hours straight, contemplating if the money I would leave for my kids would actually be more important than me.
Wow.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through that.
Yeah.
We do best when we forget why we started doing this in the first place. We start making money and the money takes the seat, the
Right.
driver's seat.
Yep.
And so that was a big shift for me. And
Look, I'm going through it now. I mean, we all go through it. I mean, I'm glad you're sharing some of this stuff.
Yeah.
I talked about this a little bit earlier, that balance as an entrepreneur. How do you know our natural comfort zone oftentimes is the desk, is the drive, is the making the money. And there is the other side that we realize is more important, those kids and the family. Yeah.
as men too, Eric, like I
Yep.
think sometimes we just need permission.
Yep.
Because we hold the world on our back, which is not good either. It's all on us, but it's not. And luckily, an amazing friend of mine, Jesse Elder, kind of gave me that permission. He gave me permission not only to take my life back, but to give my former hers. And that's kind of where I went through a divorce, at 36. And dude, I remember my lawyers, they go, well, you live in Texas. It's 50-50 state, but heads up, you've always had really good tax attorneys, so, you don't pay that much in taxes because you follow the law.
Right.
But your former is using that to show that you know how to hide money. So this is probably going to take 3 years.
Oh God.
Do searching, internationally. Like they know their money hidden somewhere. I'm like, no. I said, I can always make more money. I can't make more time.
Yeah.
So give it to her. Close everything down. Give her everything. And I just want to save that time because I don't want to put my kids through that. And so we were done in 6 months. And at 36, I moved back in with my parents with a little bit under $1,000 in my name to reset and restart.
Crazy.
First, it was freeing.
Yep.
And then I realized that I was probably in a little mini depression as well, just because of the fact that this was new. This was different.
As an entrepreneur, we're always after success. We're always after winning. It's like, do you go through that mental battle of, did I fail here? And like just going through that.
Close your businesses.
Yeah.
I was a person that my parents never went to divorce. I'm like, I was a double failure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're like, in your mind, you're thinking, shit, I've never failed like this before. My family, my kids, right? Like, so that must have been tough. And how'd you get through that?
Honestly.
Yeah.
And here's the whole thing with social media, right? Like, I think this is what messes everybody up. Our perception of everyone else's perception is what drives us crazy. I could sit here and I'm like, oh, Eric's thinking this about me. Unless you tell me, I have no clue. I'm just perceiving what I perceive you think about me. And that's what drives most of us crazy. And that's what was driving me crazy because I was perceiving the world still saw me as, hey, this is Joshua B. Lee. You need to monetize something. He's the guy, right? That wasn't the case, but that was what was in my mind. That's what was driving me crazy too, on top of the other losses, because I wasn't that person anymore.
Yeah.
I wrote my first book, Balance is Bullshit. I had amazing friends, Hal Elrod, Jesse Elder wrote the forward and the afterword for me. I launched it, and I launched it when I was still depressed. And still not fully, because I was teaching everyone everything I'd learned prior to the divorce on how to get myself back. But now I'd found myself in a new situation. The book, people that read it, amazing. They loved it. They saw it. They understood that there's one life. We had to live it that way. But I wasn't in the mindset to actually launch it until I remember I sent a text, and to a lot of the friends, I know, hell, half of them were from David Gonzalez, Kurt Malley, Jesse Elder. I mean, like, there's a lot of them. I remember that text, and I said, hey, guys, I think I'm in a lot of issues. I'm really having a lot of problems. Their response was amazing. Dude, we know. We've been waiting for you.
Wow.
You've been pretending. You've been trying to hide it. You've been trying to party, all this other stuff. Next day, opportunities started coming back in my life.
Wow.
Crazy. Because all I did was release all this pressure, all this heaviness. I didn't want anyone to know all the pain that I was going through.
Yeah.
And when I just let people know that I actually care, because we do that as entrepreneurs, we're too scared.
Right.
To be able to not show them that, oh, we're amazing. We don't have issues.
Right.
Yes, we all go through things.
Yeah, I think some of it's scared. I think some of it's just the ego, right? The entrepreneur ego that thinks that we're we're tough, we're strong, we don't show emotions. All right, solve, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. We'll get through it.
And that was it. Cause we could always make, once you're an entrepreneur, you can always figure out how to make money, just enough just to get by. And I was doing that. I was like, after a lot, I'm like, oh, well, I can close this deal. Here's 30 grand here. That gets me to the next thing.
Yeah.
And dude, it was crazy. And so like, that was that thing. And honestly, the other piece was my wife now, Rachel. I mean, we had started doing a met her, and I'll be honest, she goes, hey, I'm leaving. She just graduated from UT, getting her MBA. And she goes, I'm leaving in 2 months to go work for Microsoft. I'm like, cool. I just got a 10-year relationship. This is awesome. We'll have some fun. And then you're out. I don't have to like break the whole thing off.
Yeah.
And then, we'd started, and we actually somehow did the long distance relationship. And I remember she was going to move back after a year being gone. She moved back to Texas for me. She was going to turn down the fast track at Microsoft. She was asked to be like the executive assistant for one of the EVPs there, which is like the fast track on the corporate ladder. And she called me and she was like, hey, and dude, I had hit this month where it was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay rent. If you're not, you've probably been there. Someone's,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like,
Oh yeah.
and I go, maybe you shouldn't. She's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm changing my entire career for you. Like, what's up? Like, what's really happening? And I go, and I told her, and she goes, are you kidding me? So I'm just being honest. She goes, let me tell you something. If I came to you and I told you I had the same issue, what would you say? Well, I got you. That's what I was raised. I always got your back. She goes, why can't I say that to you? Well, no one's ever told me that before. So I got you. I'm going to move there. I got you taken care of. You reset, figure out what you need to do. And I got you. Dude, I get chills saying it now.
Wow. Yeah.
Because like, that's when I knew like, this is the one, this is the woman for me. This, other than my mom, I was the person that said that to everybody else. I was the person that everyone went to when they had an issue. And to have that one person say, I got you when I told them that my worst situation.
I could see it. That's, we know that is the one. You're right. She's there and she does have your back. And that's probably, you probably have never felt that in a relationship like that. You felt like you were always taking care of somebody else. You weren't sure if they could do that. And for her to step up like that, amazing. And you're probably extremely happy now. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we work together, everything at Standout Authority. I mean, like, you talk about another ego thing. I mean, like, I know we're jumping ahead, but like last year I was with David Gonzalez and we were going through some stuff, and I had a lot of amazing friends like Ron Lynch and some other guys there, and Jesse and his 3-day think tank that he does. And they're like, well, I'm like, well, I don't know. I need to do 10 million or whatever. It's like, dude, what's really going on? I was like, honestly, like, I don't really care to be CEO anymore. Oh, what's going on? Like, and Rachel had told me times like, hey, a female in business, there's so much more opportunity. My ego was like, well, I started this company. Like, you came in like halfway through. I'm not going to, best decision I ever made, dude. She is the 51% ownership, female run. So yeah, I mean, like, my ego was getting in the way, right? Like allowing Rachel to come in after I realized like that wasn't what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be the CEO anymore. But my ego was like, well, I started these companies. It was a magic. I mean, we've had so much opportunity ever since then, but like going back to that, right? Like if I go back to when Rachel said, I got you, she gave me the time and energy to go back and look. Cause after my reset, Eric, if you had met me after my reset and walk away, I had my man bun, my mala beads, pendulum had swung. I'm like, I'm going to be the guru. I'm going to teach everybody how to do this. Cause I was forgetting my past to forge a new future. Like, oh, I'm not going to do the marketing anymore. And not until that second time that came back around, when Rachel gave me the time to be able to kind of sit back in and have my back and cover me to give me the time, was I realized I was forgetting my past. And how do I actually merge these? How do I learn from my past to forge my new future? And that was bringing the two together. That's kind of how Standout Authority was born. Was I was trying to show people, I wanted to connect with the human beings, the entrepreneurs that were suffering too, that were contemplating, because there's such a high suicide rate in entrepreneurs and things of that nature. And so I was trying to help the humans behind there, but I forgot the marketing and all the advertising. And when I actually took the marketing and advertising, it was like, how do we actually humanize the way we are online, not just monetize the way we're online?
Got it.
And dude, it was magic. All of a sudden, I got men and women, I was reading their books on how to be able to start my own companies 20 years ago, were flowing into my sphere of influence and opportunity. And I was being able to help them shift from, how do I sell you, right? How do I pitch you? How do I go through to, how do I educate, inspire, and draw you in? How do I get you to want to work with me rather than being sold into working with me?
Right.
And that was a huge difference. That's a huge shift in how we actually see most marketing play out today.
Wow. Okay. And so this now gets you into the new company. One thing I was going to reemphasize what you were saying is you felt for the first time in a long time, you had a true partner. that was going to call your shit out, that was going to be there for you. Good times, bad times, you could brag with, and she got your back.
Dude,
And
let me tell you, she's really good at calling my shit out.
yeah, and you hadn't had all before. And sometimes, and that goes back to the loneliness. I mean, I remember that my first company is one of the biggest things I learned is the visionary guy I was with. He taught me something I'll never forget. Is like he wanted to surround himself with people that would call his shit, that would say you're full of shit. And I remember he actually would walk around with $100 bills. He says the first person to call my shit and say I'm full of shit and tell me why, $100.
Yeah.
And he started training us mentally, his executive team, to do that.
That's
And
beautiful, man. That's what we need in this world, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we're so scared in a world that we've been taught, that we don't want to be polarizing in a way, not negatively, but polarizing to be. But like in life, human beings, we make decisions based on some degree of love or hate. We don't make decisions being indifferent. And so many people, like you're talking about, try to be indifferent. They try to be like, oh, you're great. And they don't want to say negative or positive or whatever because they don't want to. They get skewed out of line, but that's not how we actually grow.
Wow. Yeah. No, I love it. Exactly. All right. So let's go on to Standout Authority. So now you're doing that and you get into this world. And how do you go from that to being the LinkedIn guru that you've been? And now you got some other things coming up cooking.
Well, at first, right, I had the traffic. So once you have access to traffic, you can actually shift that traffic wherever you want.
Yep.
When I talk online traffic. So at first, I used kind of what I knew when I first got in. I was like, well, I know that LinkedIn articles, if I can actually take that and actually pump a whole bunch of traffic and say, oh, Eric, hey, man, I can help you write an article on LinkedIn and I can give you 100,000 views on it. That gives you, notoriety that you can use that and leverage that and say, look, this is why you should use me. And this is why you should buy my crap because I wrote these articles and these other 100,000 people believe in me.
Right.
But that again was manipulation. And it started me to understand there was a power on LinkedIn. I just was kind of just touching the surface. I was still trying to use the old ways, but I wasn't shifting enough of what I really needed to do. And not until I started looking at, man, we're always chasing these algorithms, LinkedIn algorithm, Facebook algorithm. They're always changing. We've got to find the next trick or the next hack. And in essence, there's one algorithm that doesn't change, which is the human algorithm. It's the only one that stays consistent. It evolves slowly over time, but if you look back, I mean, we're not that different in our innate human beings and ourself as we were as the people that were, a century before us. There's not that much of a technology. As at our core, we still believe in our condition the same way. Especially with social media, we've been conditioned over 20 years. Our online is like, comment, share, post. Like, comment, share, post. That's how we're conditioned. They just want you to stay in that pattern.
The same dopamine, the same whatever endorphin, the same. Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
There's a better way to be able to use dopamine. And I think that's where I saw it with dopamine without direction is insanity. And that's where most of us find ourselves because we get this dopamine that we're not getting pushed in any direction. There's no depth, right? You're trading depth for dopamine, disconnecting from your purpose, right? And so that's the thing, right? It's just people chasing money. And so when I realized as human beings, dopamine actually, if you use it in the right way, can put you in flow state. It's how human beings actually get connected faster. I kind of went back in and I said, man, I just want to try something. The things that my mom taught me, right? What if instead of going, oh my God, Eric, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. I see you wear shirts. Me too. Like everybody else. They're like, hey, and then I can pitch you and then I can annoy you and everything else. It was well, what if I hate cold calling, I hate cold email. What if I shifted this a little bit? What if I look for trigger points? What if I look to see if someone looked at my profile, someone engaged in my content or my ideal audience posted on LinkedIn and I just said something as simple as, man, just reach out and say thank you. Hey, Eric, I saw your recent post on LinkedIn. Just want to reach out and say thank you. I appreciate you adding value or thanks for checking out my profile. I'd love to find out what pushed you to look me up. Little things like that. What I realized when you thank someone, it creates a stopgap in that pattern because you're appreciating them for something they take for granted. We take for granted the like, comment, share, post, because it's just the pattern we're in.
Right.
And it was amazing. All of a sudden that started conversation.
Right.
And I realized, wait a minute, it's not pitch, sell. Let me see how many leads. If I can pitch 1,000 people and get the one sale, yay. No, I pissed off 999 people. What if I actually shifted to actually go after advocates first and allow the byproduct to become clients? And so if I actually start a real conversation that builds a relationship, and a relationship can create an opportunity, that's a better way to go.
Yep.
And so that's where we started really going down that path way before anyone even cared. I mean, like I've been beating this drum for 10 years on
Wow.
LinkedIn. And now all of a sudden I got everyone coming like, hey, Josh, that platform you were telling me about, LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Dude.
Can you
I'm
help
like,
me now? You're like, yeah, where were you?
I'm like, yeah, like we've been doing that. And so like that was the shift, man. And it was like, and COVID's helped and a lot of the other aspects, but like, dude, you look at B2B or B2C, business to business or business to consumer, like they were designed by guys like me, you, hell, your brother, it sounds like too, just to diversify ad spend.
Yeah.
Like every company is run by another human being. Most marketers forget that.
Right.
And so it's all that H to H. And like once I realized that, how do we actually connect with the human beings behind these brands, be able to build that resilience through content, being able to highlight someone as an entrepreneur, most of us don't want to highlight ourselves. We want to highlight our brand and hide behind it, be behind the curtain and make the money. But it's more powerful for us as human beings to step in front of that curtain and allow people to see us.
Yep.
And that was where the shift that I started going through. How do I highlight these people in a way that humanizes them, allows them to connect with their audience like never before? And
Yep.
that's where we started seeing massive power on LinkedIn.
And then through that, you've just evolved and fine-tuned that to today.
Exactly. And now LinkedIn's the more indexed than any other platform out there.
Yep.
Microsoft bought them 4 or 5 years ago, one of their largest cash purchases ever, I think like $24.6 billion.
Yep.
And now they're worth like 90 billion. So amazing investment in them. And like,
So your wife got back to Microsoft some way or another.
well, she's the one that kind of actually really keyed me back in. Cause when we were going through, when we got together, she was like, hey, she was actually at Microsoft helping with the LinkedIn purchase.
Oh, that's so funny. I
She
mean,
used to run branding over at the Microsoft Partner Network. So like she was part of that whole thing.
it all worked out.
And she was like, hey, you might want to check out LinkedIn stuff, go a little deeper. Like you're kind of touching on it, but like you're not going deep.
Yeah. She had the vision. She knows what's going on, and you jumped in that early. And so fast forward many years now, and obviously it sounds like probably the same age to age thread, the human to human thread, is still exists. Obviously, stumbled on and had a good vision towards that earlier on.
Yeah.
So let's go to present. Like, what are you doing today? And really, for our community of listeners and others that might be listening, love to hear, give us a nugget or two of what you think is maybe a big opportunity people are missing.
Look, I mean, I don't care who you are, what you're doing. If you're not on LinkedIn right now, you're missing out. I mean, it is not only the future of business, but it's the future of search, right? I mean, like that's what we're doing. We're kind of going in, as you mentioned the earlier, part, I get to work with amazing humans, in this world. I also get to work with some amazing companies like AWS is one of our biggest clients, right? They realize the power that I remember, dude, I wouldn't even had that opportunity. I wasn't in corporate. Thank God for Rachel, right? Like she had that corporate relationship, was able to bring that kind of to fruition. But I remember sitting down there like, this is so refreshing. Every marketing company we've talked to want to tell me about their funnels and all their leads. Like, we don't need leads. We're AWS.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be able to highlight these amazing humans within our company. You're the only company that's finally brought us exactly what we were looking for. People don't realize like AWS went around and hired some of the best top level C-level talent from all these amazing companies around the globe, but no one knows about it because they don't highlight those humans.
Wow. Okay.
And so that's where they brought us in, to really be able to highlight these human beings and allow that opportunity. And I was like, dude, finally someone gets it. And like they were saying the same thing. Finally, someone understands. I was like, it's finally, people are finally understanding the power of the human brand. Because Eric, I'll talk to you, man. Like, let's go Elon Musk, right? Like it used to be like a positive thing, like, oh, Elon, dude, his personal brand transcends. If I said Mercedes, Porsche, or Tesla, what name comes to mind?
Right.
Most people would say, unless they're a car person, even then, most people would only know Elon Musk. But I mean, and now it was a positive. Now with everything that's recently happened, his personal brand has negatively impacted other companies that he's associated with. But that's the world we live in. And so like, that's what we're getting able to do. But I still see an issue, right? Like, yes, we come in and become someone, and we do that better than like people tell us, like we're able to get their voice, their mannerisms, their tonality better than anyone other company has ever been able to do that, because we go through, being able to have AI, we build 50-page AI personas, right? To be able to understand their tonality, their manners, their words they say, the words they don't say. And we do this because I said Microsoft owns LinkedIn, but Microsoft owns another little company. Let's just be honest. They own Copilot, but they also own ChatGPT. Most of us, the general public probably doesn't, but we know that.
Yep.
And so because of that, and they saw what Google was doing, being able to be LinkedIn, one of the highest index sites, I guarantee you looking right now, or anyone listening, if you search your name up, I guarantee you one of the top 3 listings will be your LinkedIn profile.
Right.
I don't care who's listening. If you got a LinkedIn profile, it's going to be one of the top 3. It's probably number 1 if you're even active a little bit on LinkedIn.
Right.
And so because they saw that and it's the highest trusted platform out there, they went in and they're now actually over the last year, they finally came out in November of last year and said, hey, we've been doing this. I have been working with them on the beta side for a year and a half now. They've been indexing LinkedIn for the basis of generative search. So dude, like we've figured out.
So if you're searching on people and everybody else, that data is coming, a lot of it's coming from LinkedIn.
Yeah. And so like, I was like, look, we're going to get indexed no matter what. Like, just like everyone's like, oh, I don't want to have Alexa in my phone, my house because they're listening. I got a phone. They're all, you and I both, they're all, there's too many times I'll be like, hey, I'm going to Costa Rica. And the next thing I know, I get an ad for Costa Rica. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're telling me they don't listen on my phone. Yeah. But so like, I was like, dude, I want to control the narrative. So we've now figured out how to be able to leverage LinkedIn, how to be able to build the profiles, the content, because content on LinkedIn, like I wrote articles 5 years ago that still get engagement and visibility. Like it stands the test of time compared to like X, Twitter, or, Facebook, like that gets lost in like a day or time. Like this content stands. And now I'm able to go in and create the content that gets indexed for the future of search, which is generative search. Like that's huge.
So one of your just basic recommendations, again, I mean, obviously you're saying get on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So is it what you're saying, if nothing else, they got to get their poo-poo together, get their profiles and make sure their brand
That's
is
the first thing.
And what you're emphasizing here is we don't realize how important this is. Like we all kind of know it's there, and some people are like, well, I don't really know if I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
They think in terms of, am I going to get business on LinkedIn? I don't really see it as a tool where my customers are going. You're saying no.
Mindedness. Yeah.
You're not thinking correctly. You're saying, no, make a goal in the next 30 days to fix your LinkedIn. That is your business card to the world. And you have an opportunity to make it really kick ass.
100%. And it's a place, right? Like this is where it really stands out because take the time out, fill everything out. I mean, like I was talking to a buddy of mine, Giovanni, and we were talking like, it's like, well, most people are like, I'm the CEO of Standout Authority. Like, no, like go back and look at my LinkedIn profile. My first job is on there as a server at Chili's.
Yeah.
Right. Everything is an indexable point. And like how many people go like, I want to have conversation, build relationship. Oh, dude, you worked at Chili's? Me too. Conversation, opportunity, commonality, right? Like that's what people look for. And so like feel everything. He's like, oh, so I should put my first job at a Payless shoe store. I'm like, oh yeah, do everything, put it all on there. The more information, the better. You're outside. Like I've been for the last couple of years, the resident Spider-Man at Dell Children's Hospital here in Austin, Texas. Like, put that stuff out there. I don't want to see what you do. I want to see who you are. Don't tell me your resume, tell me your career journey, your career story.
Right.
And then unlike other platforms, Eric, like you got to put content out there. Dude, like I just saw your post the other day, right? Like I love this stuff because you don't have to post 3 times a day like some platforms. With our biggest clients, how many times do you think we post a week?
2, 3?
3 times a week.
Oh yeah. I'm going to have to do once a week. That's what I'm trying to push myself to, but yeah.
Shoot for two at least.
All right.
But you want that content to breathe because again, with LinkedIn, you have a breadth of time. Yeah, of course, that first 60 minutes or whatever, but there's another impact that they actually hits that visibility 24 hours later.
Got it.
So like, that's why like people they'll post and post and post and they'll cannibalize their previous posts because they're posting on top of that post without giving it enough time to get the full visibility of that network.
All right. I love it. So if nothing else, and then I'm going to get one last tip and we'll go on. I like trying to keep it simple for most people are just getting their stuff get your shit together and get your profile up. And there's obviously a lot of models to look at, Josh's and others to go look at to make sure you're doing the right things and fill it as much as you can. Take the time, invest the time, 3 times, 2 minimum, 3 times a week, do some kind of post. Now, as far as the post itself, any suggestions or tips on what they should be posting about?
All right. So this is crazy, right? So last year, look, I'm on LinkedIn. Last year, I think I did 2 million total impressions across all my content last year. I'm at like 26 million impressions so far for the year, Eric.
Yep.
Organically on LinkedIn. And not to, like opportunity, like massive opportunity when you look at what's going on because the audience on the platform, average incomes like double any other social media platform. You're 50% of people on there have a college degree or higher, so you have an educated audience. And 4 out of 5 people on there are business decision makers. So like I've got people that make money, can make the decision, and are educated enough to know what they're making a decision on. It's a win-win-win, right? Yeah. So like, here's the thing. Yeah, you want to post different content. You want to have a post with a picture. Like it's still the human. Don't overproduced content, unless you are a household name, we are now conditioned to look for the pitch. We just see it as a commercial. So unless you're like Gary Vee, Ariana Huffington, Tony Robbins, if it's overproduced, I'd rather you just take out your phone and do something real and raw, right?
Got it.
Because everyone else is going to go, oh, this guy's going to pitch me at the end.
Yeah.
That's what everyone does on LinkedIn. So real and raw and, images, videos, and where I've gotten most of my content right now, I'm a sharer, you know me.
Yeah.
Eric, every social media platform, you look for like the trending hashtags, right? Like, oh, this is trending for Twitter or for Facebook or Instagram. Well, trending hashtags on LinkedIn, if you go to the desktop, it's not on the mobile, and you look in the right-hand corner, it says trending news. Because again, we live in a 24/7 media world.
Yep.
It's the news. I mean, like, the people that are running the country right now, they're all from TV, every person on there. So, that's what it is. So like that right there, it tells you how many readers are on there. And so you probably remember, this was years ago, we used to do news jacking, where you take something trending in the news. Well, dude, that's what I'm doing now. And with AI, it makes it awesome. Like, so I go in, I find out what's related to what I talk about. So I have 3 core pillars that I talk about: entrepreneurship, LinkedIn, and AI, right?
Yep.
Those are my 3 core topics that I talk about. So if that hits, there's a news article in there, and I do this only twice a week, right? Like Tuesdays and Thursdays, I go in and I look and say, oh, there's a news right now that's going through, and I've got balloons behind me. The trending news, you go through there, news jacking, and we're using AI. Like, remember I told you with our clients, we do a 50-page AI persona. So like, that's the biggest thing that most people miss out on. So my AI knows me so well. I'll go through, Eric, I'll grab the news story, and I have, how does this relate to what I talk about, my audience, my, something in the business. And then I create a video, and it's not like a 30-second, 60-second. Like, I go through, like, my videos, if you look on LinkedIn, they're sometimes 2 to 3 minutes long. And most of my video content right now, I usually average anywhere from 800 to almost 2 million views a video on LinkedIn.
Wow. Love it. Okay.
So
those are
that's
3.
the secret. Like, it don't just do something on a news story because it's like cool and you have no relatability to it. Because I hate the people that do that. You and I both have marketers. Like, I'm going to teach you how to make $7 million a year. And you're like, have you ever made $7 million a year? You're like, well, no, but I could teach you how.
Because I read it from somebody else. Did it. All right. So as we wind down, give us a taste, because I know you can't share everything, but you were really pumped up before we in our quote green room, because you've been crushing on LinkedIn. But what do you got coming up in the horizon? That give us a taste, and then maybe you'll do a follow-up podcast where you can tell more.
Eric, dude, we're working on something big. I think it's going to really revolutionize the way that the branding and marketing industry is seen. One of the biggest things that we see, especially working with major companies and even, entrepreneurs, people in the group now, like the biggest thing, well, if I'm going to invest in brand, like, what's my ROI? And because people want to go, well, if I'm spending $8,000, if I in branding, I need to get $8,000 back a month. And it's like, branding doesn't work that way, right? You can't always directly correlate it back. They get marketing and branding mixed with sales.
Yep.
And they're 2 different things. And I think that's the biggest thing, because branding and marketing companies will go in and like, oh, I got you.
Right.
Yeah, well, because make people happy, they're just going to go through and spam 1,000 people. And that's why we all get pissed off these days. We're like, oh my God, we're getting marketed to all the time. It's being able to change brand perception, being able to change to a trust environment. People are looking to be able to trust the people they work with.
Yep.
Well, we've kind of seen this, and like, how do you quantify what a personal brand brings back into a business?
Yep.
So that's what we're working on right now. We've got something new that's coming out to be able to go in and be able to say, hey, Eric, this is exactly based off of every aspect that you could think of. And look, there's companies doing half of what we're building right now, like Sprinkler, but they're not doing to the full extent of the PR, the mentions, the visibility, someone's talked about you, Eric, and going through and being able to actually quantifiably say, this is exactly what the weight of their personal brand means. Like, that's to truly give value to the human beings within the company. I mean, like, think of a company like Microsoft or Amazon. Like, what if they actually empowered all the employees at their company, or even everyone here, right? You've got smaller companies that are going in here. You empowered all the people at your company to own their personal brand and empowered them to feel confident to be able to share content, not only about themselves, but about the business, what they love, what they have. Like, not only are they going to feel better about working for you because you're allowing them to be able to really share and be their authentic self, but you're creating a social selling army, because everyone you connect with people different than I connect with based on our background.
Right.
And so now if you can actually go back in and now quantify that, like, oh, well, Eric's got out of 100, he's got a weight of 90 that gives him That's how much value he's bringing back in this company. Dude,
Yeah.
that gamifies it, that gives value. And I think that's something we're working on, not only with the new podcast that'll come out. So Eric, we'll have to have you on that new podcast.
All right, let's do that. Yeah,
Yeah, well, we're gonna have a book coming out, so it's a whole thing, and like it's the most excited I've been in a long time
I'm
because
excited to meet your wife.
the problem is when I introduce everyone to Rachel, they always go, "Oh, there's where the magic comes from."
There's the magic.
Oh, this is. I'm like, God, man, I get pushed to the back. No, she is amazing, and I mean, like, she is my better half. I mean, it allows us to, like you said in the beginning, right? Like having a partner that you can depend on, not only financially but personally, and have all those. It's a rare thing in this life.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of as entrepreneurs, we put that as and the behind the scenes and don't put so much focus on our family. But like, if we can't be amazing with our family, like how can we expect to be amazing to the world?
Exactly. I love it. And I know the feeling and look forward to that next time. And thank you so much for coming into the inside the Speakeasy today. Loved having you. Some incredible stories. Wow. I was blown away and look forward to our journey and hanging out more together. And we'll see you next time.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you so much, Ben.
And that's a wrap from the Speakeasy podcast. If something sparked for you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, review it, and pass it to the one person who needs to hear this right now. Want in on the real mastermind? Tap the link in the show notes to apply. Until next time, keep scaling, stay sharp, and don't be the smartest one in the room.